Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. This week's episode is another panel episode, and I'm super excited to be bringing it to you with two amazing guests on this. It's Maria and Erika joining me again, and we are going to be talking about deployments, but pretty much any type of separation. We're going to be covering lots of different tips and tricks, and there are different segments of deployment. There is prepping, surviving the actual separation, and then reintegration afterwards. And these three panel episodes that we're going to be talking about deployments or separations will be covering those sorts of things. And a lot of the tips and advice and things that we are going to be sharing work for any type of separation, short ones or long ones. So this can be applicable to anyone, and it doesn't even just have to be military. If you're having to deal with a long distance relationship because of work or something else, or your husband travels a lot for business, some of these same things that we use to survive in military life might be able to help you too. So buckle up, and we're going to share what we have learned in our years of experience as military spouses. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. All right, everyone, I'm bringing in Erika and Maria, and we're going to be first this episode covering prepping for separations and deployments. Again, like I said in the intro, it doesn't always have to be a deployment. Sometimes these separations are TDYs or whatever. And if you are on the civilian side, sometimes some of these tips and tricks we are sharing are helpful if you travel a lot with work, or you are just different things, because I know that my family has people who will travel for business and they'll be gone like 1 week a month. And so these things are helpful with that too. That said, they're just good things in general. Okay, Erika, quick reminder for everyone who you are, and then Maria, go ahead and introduce yourself. Oh, wait. Erika?
Hi, I'm Erika. 13 and a half years of being Air Force spouse, and we're still in the DoD military community. We're still overseas. So that's the angle we're coming in. And my husband did 6 deployments while he was active duty. And we'll get more into those details later. But that's the short end of it.
I'm Maria. My husband retired about a year ago, so we're kind of starting the other side of being out of the military and just kind of figuring out where we fit in. He had 8 deployments while we were in over his 20 years. So, yeah. And then I do life coaching with military wives and just other moms in general. I'm transitioning a little bit into moms with adult children.
Oh,
Dude, that is a whole different ballgame.
It really is.
I've got a lot of friends who are there, and I'm like, I still have a toddler. Don't scare me. But yeah, parenting is hard at any stage, but it's just different at every stage. As most of y'all who are listening to this podcast know, we're a military family of about 12 years now, almost. Yeah, about 12 years. And we're Army. My husband has been deployed. We've also done hardship tours, and we've done month-long trainings. The running joke is that one of our poor kids, daddy's only been home for 2 birthdays. No, 3. The day he was born, a birthday when he was like 4, and then like when he was 8. Daddy's always gone for his birthday. And you know what? That just happens. And so these are things that we all have learned. I am kind of an OCD person in some ways. I love checklists. So I've put together a pre-deployment checklist of things that I go through with my husband to try to like stave off Murphy, because Murphy's law of military life is that as soon as your husband is gone, something will go wrong. Like the world will blow up in your face somehow. And knowing that ahead of time and accepting that ahead of time and being as prepared as realistically possible without being crazy is good. But just knowing that it's always going to break. It's always going to break. So, like, just what is your prep mentality philosophy like, in Erica, Maria, when you're prepping? When you first find out they're going away, what would you do?
Get really mad. No, just kidding. um, we
Yes,
double
that's
check.
normal.
That is. I like to double check that I have good power of attorneys. Is really has been one of my big saving graces, and I have a power of attorney that says I can do everything from buying a car in his name, buying a house, being able to take our kids out of country, whatever it is. And I find out what exact. So that's kind of been my big thing is I want a power of attorney that says I can do anything I need to do. And I've used it
Those
for like PCSing, which is really funny because he was in the field, and I'm like, I need to be able to do these things. So for me, those have been very important.
No, it's true. You need it for deers. You need it for a lot of things. That is a life saver in military life. Erica, what's one of the first things you do or think of when you find out?
Same thing. It's the the power of attorneys is usually the first thing we get squared away, or updating the power of attorneys if it's been a while from the last deployment. Obviously, you have the deployment processing in itself as our out processing, and for RAF, it was mandatory that he had an updated will. So it
Hmm.
was revisiting the will and making sure I had immediate access to that, just in the event anything tragic would happen. Um, and oh, and our bank account, we always had me as the primary because it was just easier if I needed to do business with the bank. They'd rather deal with the primary account holder. Even if you're secondary, there's still issues. So we always had me as the primary on our banking.
Also
Yeah, that's smart.
making sure we're
Huh?
authorized. Also making sure we're authorized users. Like if they are the primary on something, like
Uh-huh.
T-Mobile does not let you cancel a phone line if you are not the primary
Yep.
user. Even with the power of attorney, they're
Right.
like, nope.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
phone companies are pains in the butt, notoriously. They just are. And speaking of phone companies, making sure that wherever they're going, you can get like an international phone plan or a SIM card, or finding out what works there by talking to people who've done that deployment before so that you can keep up
Mhm.
communication. I know when we first got in, and you guys probably experienced this more than we did, um, they did not always have cell service at
No.
all.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
they did not only have cell service, they didn't always have internet, and satellite internet was not as huge of a thing. And so they had to like schedule their calls and things like that and
You
schedule
waited
their
in
time.
line for phone calls to use the phone, and like you almost felt like you had to sit at home and wait for that call.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we got in, that was still a thing, but luckily my husband didn't get deployed until those things had started to change. And so we were able to get him a puck. Um, maybe people don't know what that is, but it's basically it looks like a little brick, like a little fake phone almost, but it broadcasts internet. And then with that, we could use apps like um, uh, Marco Polo or FaceTime or Facebook Messenger, call that way. There was different ways to communicate. So looking into like communication, what's going to be possible, and setting realistic expectations, because depending on what your husband's MOS is, you may not be able to talk that often. There were times where like my husband would be able to talk almost all the time. We were spoiled. And so when he had communications blackouts, I had to like calm myself down and be like, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. It doesn't mean there's something wrong. But yeah, what
Well,
about you guys? What's something else that
I was
you,
gonna say, even on that, depending on the job, like where their focus has to be, because for Spencer being a combat pilot, it was really hard for him to shift gears. So he wanted to be like, okay, this is kind of my day off that I'm not flying a mission. That's what I'm going to talk to you. But when I'm spending 10 hours prepping and 5 hours flying, it was too mentally exhausting for him to try to switch back and forth. To be
Yeah, and those
be
might
husband and dad, and now let me go be soldier.
sound like things to worry about once you get out there, but if you can start having these conversations now when you're still in person about, okay, what do you need? What are like, and it's so much easier because the emotion level hasn't risen yet. Every you're all emotionally amped up when they're gone. They are and you are. And so if you can have these conversations now, like about, okay, I don't feel comfortable calling on days I'm flying. I need to call on my days off. Or my husband is always like, you know what? You know, I like to work night shift when I'm deployed. And so just know that I'm going to be on night shift. And so you're not going to be able to get a hold of me until like the afternoon. Or he's like, I'm always going to push for that. And just knowing those things, having those as many conversations ahead of time as possible are huge. Here's something I'm going to throw out. Know how the utilities work, like know where your water shutoffs are and your power shutoffs are, and like walk through your house with your husband and be like, okay, when's the last time we took care of this? Who do I call if this breaks? And have a list. For me, I like to have a list on the refrigerator of all of the repair people or who I call, where all the warranties are, so that when all heck breaks loose, because it will, I have a physical thing. I don't have to go digging through my phone or my computer. I have a piece of paper laminated to my refrigerator and I can just go there. That's me. You
We
may
call
not
that
need that.
the control journal. And inside, I have it in a binder.
Mm-hmm.
Proud about that. I haven't done one in a little while, but we had it in a binder, but it also had like the rear detachment, the FRG leader, some, like an emergency contact in the neighborhood. And it was almost, and then emergency, and in the front of it for us, because we'd have, we had little kids, I had like my phone number and emergency contacts for the babysitter. Like, so if you're babysitting and you can't get a hold of me, here's 3 other people you can call. And that was
Mm-hmm.
always in the front of it for them.
That's a really good
Mm.
point. Um,
We
Erica, what's
had a
something
unique
else?
we had a unique situation in our dynamics. So before, when we were in the talks of him joining, one of the things we discussed was, okay, well, what career fields, what's the deployment factor going to be like for what career fields? And
Mm-hmm.
then looking long term, in life, what is it a career you could fall back on when you get out, or if something happened and you are not going to be able to retire like you want, which is what happened with us. And actually he wanted to do computers, and um, I guess it's kind of hard to get into because I think a lot of people want to do IT and computers. But he was selected for it. Long story short, and because of the field of work he was in, his deployments were only on foreign soil 4 months at a time.
Nice.
And because he was in IT, we had full access to communications through like
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. So while he was at work, we could literally just be texting each other, no different than what we do now. Um, and so on that note, it was very unique for us. And it wasn't, I knew I had it good compared to many, many other military spouses across the board. We were in a very, like I said, very unique situation. So the deployments for us weren't so unbearable, but I also knew that it wasn't going to be a picnic either. Like your husband's
Yeah.
still not there to help you with the day to day stuff, your kids' school. Um, you're kind of still single parenting it in many ways. Um, and so, yeah, the mental prep was okay, you're leaving. okay. And that was pretty much all right. So I got to go into single mom mode, and it was all about what do you need? It was no longer about me or the domestic side. It was me asking him, what do you need? Where do we need to get you? What do we need to do? Let's start packing. Let's start getting things in a row. So everything just the mindset mentally just shifts to it's no longer my needs or our son's needs. Okay, you're leaving. This is the date that you're leaving. What do we do? What do you need? What do we need to get done to get you packed and ready to go? And
Yeah.
that helped him mentally in terms of my wife's got this. She's not insecure, and she has my back. So there was never any worry of me wigging out on him. I knew that wasn't going to help anyways. I knew what I was
Yeah.
signing up for regardless. And I didn't have, I didn't have the right to cry or scream about it because I had an idea of what we were signing up for, regardless of what career field he was in or not. Deployments were going to happen. It was just a matter of how do we mitigate that. We were in our own way. Yeah, we manipulated, his career. Um, and
Yeah, you got to play the game. The game plays you, you got to play
yeah,
back.
exactly. It's a game of life at the end of the day. It is the game of life for, in the grand scheme of things. And for us, it was, you know, easier to join the military than to stick around and be poor where we were at. So, and we were
Yeah.
willing to take whatever came with the military lifestyle. It was easier to handle than not joining. The the benefits outweighed anything else. But we knew it was going to come with sacrifice. We knew it was going to come with, you know, um, anything happening at a moment's notice, real world scenarios. Um,
What
and
were some
praying nothing
fun
happened worldwide, you
Oh
know.
yeah. What were some fun things you guys tried to do with, because that's one thing we try to do is set up like a family fun day before they leave and have like a date night. Like, what were some sort of fun things you tried to do with daddies before they left?
Oh gosh, Christian was so small. We they had this in Warner Robins, they had like this little family fun spot. It was like it's like a Chuck E. Cheese type place. And they had a
Okay.
lot of games and it was on a much bigger scale. Actually, it's better than Chuck E. Cheese in my opinion. So we would go there and have fun. We would go to Florida because we were in Georgia and we would visit family. So Raph could see his parents and, family and be able to say goodbye. And, we have family working for Disney. And so we would, you know, go to Disney maybe one last time. Or if we didn't, we would at least go to the beach or something. So that was if we had time. That was the other thing because there was at least once we had a 2 week notice.
Oh, wow.
He was leaving in two. Oh no, it was that day he called me. He's like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks, and I'm
We had
like,
a
what?
24-hour notice. My
24
husband
hours?
called,
Really?
I'm trying to think. My husband called me and said, I leave in the morning.
Holy.
And
Yeah.
it was my
Oh
son's
my
birthday.
word.
And I was having play group at my house, and it was my son's birthday. And my friend goes, I have half a cake made at my house. Do you want me to go home and decorate it for him? And so we threw a birthday party for him that night.
Oh,
Oh, that's
wow.
awesome. See,
And then
friends are great. That's
and
important
and,
too.
and on some
Yeah.
aspects, that was probably the easiest deployment because there was no build up for it. There was no time to sit and think about it and to process like, oh, we have to do all these things because it was when he was part of the 160th. So wills, power of attorneys, all of those things were just kept current.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
And so it was just like, oh, okay. And now you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes ripping the Band-Aid off and then leaving quicker is better. I've noticed that.
Hmm.
When my husband was going to be gone for a hardship tour, we were given a year notice. And that year was
Mhm.
probably the worst year of my life because I moped and whined and complained and pity partied for a whole freaking year. And after that, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm like, Philip, until you have hard orders, don't tell me. And then once you do, I will put on my big girl pants and I will not be a snot. Because I'll look back and I'm like, you poor guy, you and the kids, you had a mopey, whiny person to deal with for a whole freaking year. A year is way too much notice. Military, if you're hearing this, do not tell them a year in advance. It's bad. But
Probably more
like
than a
It
I
day
is
think the
though.
hard.
best one was when we had like 3 weeks, three to four, like a month. A month is good. A month is good. It's a good enough time, I think, to get things ready and not be stupid like me.
I
And
like
we
that.
usually had a few months rotate. We usually had a few months heads up because they were on a constant rotation. So we always kind of knew, but there was a guy that something had happened, I think medically with him. He had to drop out and they were needing someone to replace him. And
Oh,
Ralph
okay.
called me and he's like, hey, they need someone for this deployment. And without even hesitation, I said, do it. And he sat
Okay.
there on the phone. He goes, I'm sorry, what? I said, just do it. And honestly, because we needed the money. So I was, so, and I mean, that's the plus to some of it is you don't have to pay, uh, it's tax-free income. And sometimes when you're on
Yeah,
that low income scale, military pay, I hate to say it, but we were struggling and we really could have used, we needed a little bit of the income boost. And I said, you know what, please do it because we need to pay off some credit cards. We need to pay off some debt because,
Yeah.
and that was
If
it.
you
No
handle your finances
hesitation.
right, yeah, the extra pay from these separations, if you play your cards right, can really help out financially.
yep,
Yeah.
And that's a good conversation to have ahead of time too, is be like, hey, let's make this plan so we can stay in this budget so we can use X amount of money to like take care of this need. And that way you're already on the same page. So this one of the last sep stupid things that the army kidnapped my husband for recently. He was like, "You know what? I'm getting there a day early. I have the car because I'm the first one there. I'm going to go hit Aldi's and I'm going to get a whole bunch of food and I'm not going to go out to eat. And that way we can use the extra food pay money to help out with this thing that's coming up." And I'm like, because he wanted to get one of his certs, that his IT certs redone. And he's like, and that'll pay for my IT cert. And I'm like, I love you, honey. Good job. Way to think ahead. I mean, they don't always think ahead, but when they do, you got to be really proud of them.
Yeah.
Maria, any other things you can think of that helped you out? Because you were on that standby last minute spectrum for a while.
it's just yeah. I mean, that was just kind of what we did. So we did that rotation, and
How did
but
you
then
help
there was also plus
kids?
sides to it because like I broke my arm when I was pregnant, and my right hand, try. So the last couple and had a cast for the first 6 weeks of our for my baby girl's life, and
Oh,
they let him
wow.
be. They let him until I had they deployed him the day after I got my cast off, but they kind of were able to work within the unit to keep him around to help me. And so that was one of the perks of kind of being in the 160th. But I've seen that in other units as well. Like really, you got to talk to your chain of command. You got to tell them what's going on and give them the opportunity to work with you and within the needs of what is going on in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where having a good relationship with those first sergeants really comes in.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are, at least for Air Force, are the first sergeants were always the ones that,
Yes.
and if you have a good first, that's another thing, having a good first sergeant. And I know sometimes it seems like that a diamond does, that's, not so. Anyway, we've had great ones and we've had really bad ones.
Special.
Yeah, special, that's funny. Um, um,
That's our family euphemism for individuals we
yeah,
don't like in the military. They're special.
oh, just sorry, thinking of Disney and how special guests. Anyway,
Hmm.
um, yeah, and the good ones are really good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They if they know what's going on in your family and they really pay attention, they remember what's going on with your family. They check in. We had that when we were in Japan, and we got off to a great start. Very much spoiled and pampered with his unit when he was first getting started in the military. As the further along it got, and the higher up in rank he went, I guess the honeymoon phase kind of dies off. The realities reality to sets in at some point. And some shirts are better than others, but we've had a
Hmm.
mix of both. But the good ones are really good ones. They will fight for you. They will fight tooth and nail. Um, and that's in a way is critical. Is them not knowing your active duty spouse, but them kind of knowing your family too, and get to knowing the first sergeant's spouse if
Yes.
they have a spouse. That is key. We were actually advised that by our first sergeant in Japan. We had all gone out to dinner. A lot of the unit did, and his wife was there, and she sat there right next to him, and she said, "Look, don't hesitate to come to me if you need anything, because guess what? I sleep next to him." So
I
if
have his
he's
ear.
not doing, she's like, if he's not doing his job, make sure that he does. I mean, it was all in like um love
Good
and fun,
fun.
and but she brought up a good point. She's like, don't hesitate to reach out even to me. I'm his wife, and we're all in this together too. And I I took that to heart back then. That it's not just the personnel, but their spouses too, because they're military spouses too,
Hmm.
and being in that pulling for each other, being in that, I guess tribe, if you will. It can be a really strong support system through your
Well,
husband's unit if you have that. Not all units are made equal.
Not every unit's like
right.
that.
But I think that's important too before they deploy, like figuring out who is your
Yeah.
support in the area. Is it somebody from the unit? Is it somebody from church? And making those connections
Yep.
and talking about it, like, what is it that you're going to need when they're deployed? Is there, something that they can do to help you out? I know during one of my deployments, my sister's like, and partly she had a daughter whose husband was active duty, and her daughter is home for the summer, and she goes, Mom, everybody always sends everything to the soldiers. We're going to send Aunt Maria and her kids a package every month that Uncle Spencer's gives.
Oh.
And like that was so good for me. And that they thought about that. So think about like, what is it that you need? Is there something ahead of time that you want to plan? Like the military used
Oh,
to do the
that's a
free childcare. I don't know if they still do. I've heard, I think they still do. My kids have
It's
gotten,
limited. It's so
I was
limited.
gonna say it's so limited. When my girls were little, we got to do dance. I got 10 hours of childcare a month, and I scheduled them and I used them. And so,
yeah.
what are there benefits out there that where you're at offers you? Learn what those are. If there's not those benefits, that's fine. But do you go join the YMCA because
Hmm.
it has childcare and a pool? Like our first few deployments, that was kind of my saving grace. They'd go do childcare, and I'd go work out or sit in the chapel at the YMCA and read a book. I'm not going to lie.
Hey, I did that too.
And then we could go to the pool afterwards. And so, but finding what are those little things and deciding ahead of time, how are you going to take care of you? I have a reading program that I've done before every deployment, and it's our Book of Mormon, and you read it in 90 days. It was an Easter program that I had got. You read it in the 90 days before Easter, and I did it every deployment. The day he left, I started the program because it just got me into a good headspace.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
I would
call.
make lists of babysitters because I childcare was not always reliable. We did do YMCA sometimes, but I would have lists of babysitters of people I could call, and I used that list. Oh, that list got worn out. You just need to know those things ahead of time.
Out here at Ramstein North Chapel for years, they had a once a month deployed spouses potluck. So
Yeah.
all of the spouses around the area, Army, Air Force, didn't matter, could come and you could meet other spouses that also had spouses that were deployed, and you could connect with each other and help each other out. So that was, I never had to use that because when, for whatever reason, with his career, when we were overseas, he didn't deploy, but when we were stateside was when he would deploy. And it was just like the nature of his career,
Yeah.
the career field. But you know, check to see what any of those, like the Chaplain Corps, like Family Advocacy, any of those, Family Readiness Center, even geez, isn't there another?
Sometimes the USO will have stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about them. Yeah, the USO, they have ways of bringing those deployed spots, especially if you're overseas and you're
Mm-hmm.
in that deployed, you know, where you're. I never had to go through that where we were stationed overseas and he deployed. I don't envy those spouses. I think I would have gone nuts. I was very blessed in that, but we do have spouses out here that very much have their active duty, and uh, the support system is it's there, but you have to reach out because you know we're not mind readers. We don't know who
Yeah.
isn't deployed, you know. So this is where the Facebook groups come in, you know, and reaching out, because you reach out, you have a whole bunch of people coming in. I'll take you out to eat, or come to my house, or I have a dog. We can do a doggy play date, or I have a kid your age and we can do, you know, this play date, or um, people will come. They will definitely come for that support. For us though, I always dove into house projects. That was the time to, if I wanted to paint a wall or a garden outside and knock down some trees, do some yard work. And I mean like big projects. I knew were going to take up more or less the time of his deployment. So basically, home renovations.
Yep.
Um, and they weren't anything big. You know, my neighbor was a handyman, and we went to Home Depot and bought the cheapest tile we could find. He knew how to lay tile. He taught me how to lay tile. Went to Best Buy and got whatever was on sale. I I even price haggled with an employee on a stove and a fridge. I was on the floor. It was dented. I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it off your hands if you'll knock off another 15% off the sticker price." You know, it wasn't anything like expensively grandiose. But it was enough to get through. And then we weren't too far away from our home of record, which was Tampa. So and Christian was so small that if he wasn't in school, I would just drive 5 hours to my parents, and our support system was right there. And in some cases, Raph deployed when he wasn't in school, and I would just, well, why am I sticking around here? I'll just hang out at my parents' house. But like I said, we were very fortunate in our uh, military situation. I can't speak to, I don't envy the spouses that have really had to make the sacrifice more than I have had to make. And I feel like those are the spouses that deserve the awards, because those are the service members that are really, really putting their life on the line out there. And I've had friends that are in those like top secret special forces, don't even know where
Yeah.
their husband is. They have to meet at a secret location to even get a freaking package to their spouse. They don't know where they're at, when they're going to come back. And I'm one
I
of my
can
good
remember
friends
bringing
was,
packages
and
on
I
post
look,
to drop off, like, okay, you can get
I
this to
was
them.
like, who? Yeah, I'm like, how do
Did
you
you do
cope? And
that,
she's
Maria?
like,
Uh-huh. Yeah. We'd bring them to the
God
first
bless
lady.
you.
Wow.
I kind of blocked
So
those days
that's
out, guys.
oh my gosh. But that's the thing. We get through them, and because we got through them, we just like, oh, it wasn't a big deal, and our brain just, deprioritizes it. But then when we start running into other people and they're like, how did you survive? We start to remember, we're like, oh crap, that was a lot. And we can give them advice and we can think about these things. So thank you guys. I think this is a lot of really good points that we've brought up. We're going to wrap up this one a little bit and move on to the next. But basically, what the takeaway is, you're going to be have your momentary pity party or feel overwhelmed or freak out or whatever it is. It's okay. Do that and then put on your big girl pants and move on and come up with a plan. If you've got a day, great. If you've got a year, don't be me. Be better than I was. But know what your needs are, find out what your spouse's needs are, come up with a plan and be flexible because that plan A is never going to work out, people. Plan A is always going to go awry. And here's a good tip for anyone, whether your husband's leaving or not. Know where your utilities are. Know who your repairmen are. Know where your power and water hookups are. Those are good things to know in general, even if your husband isn't going anywhere. Just as a big girl thing to know. Anyway. Oh my gosh. I told Erica one time I've had our garage door fall on our van. Um, so yeah, basically Murphy happens. We move on. So thank you, Maria and Erica, for joining me for this. We're gonna quickly wrap up, but we will be back talking more about deployment stuff. So this is only the first installment, people. There will be more to come. So thank you and stay tight. Yeah, say hello to them now. Sometimes you just can't talk. Yeah, sometimes you just can't talk. Anyway. All right. I want to end this episode by giving a shout out to all of you who have supported me through these efforts with the interviews and the episodes and the scheduling and everything, for your input and your comments and your feedback. Thank you for everything you have done to encourage and keep this project going. I want to be able to build a community of military support where we can help uplift and encourage each other. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, click it and stick it to the algorithm so that we can continue to build this community and help each other out. More than anything, let's be the good that we want to see in the world. And as always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.